Welcome, Savvy Seeker, to the Spiritual Phoenix podcast. This is your audio oasis and paranormal portal. You can experience legendary guests, thought-provoking tarot readings, astonishing astrological forecasts, and exposure to ideas intent on igniting your unlimited inspiration. Subscribe today to keep your fire burning. One last thing, you are encouraged to reach out and ask questions. Become a part of the show. Now please enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Fool's Guide to Tarot with me, Ross Cessna, and Stefanie Caponi. Stefanie, how's everything going for you?
Everything is wonderful, Ross. How are you feeling today?
I'm amazing. I just ate a little mini cheese wheel, so I can't complain.
I love those little cheese wheels. I babysit, and the little girl I sit for lives for them, and we just eat them together.
Oh, they're so phenomenal. That one I had was white cheddar. So everything's better with cheddar, especially sitting and recording a podcast. I feel bad that you're left out of the cheddar train, but deal with it.
I have an apple and a very tiny, miniature to-go peanut butter.
I'm kind of jealous now. I shouldn't have talked shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's the karma working itself out there. So the card that we are talking about today is Death, right?
Yes, my favorite card.
Oh yeah, real quick too. If you don't know what we're doing, this is the Fool's Guide to Tarot, like I had mentioned at the beginning of the show. And what that is Stefanie Caponi and myself will discuss the major arcana card and the corresponding card, corresponding cards to it, rather. And maybe sprinkle in some of our own diverse living experience and how it relates to the cards that we are discussing. And today we are doing Death, which is Stefanie's favorite card, as she had mentioned. And let's get into it. I'm not going to show you your card, even though I'm so conditioned to hold up cards to the camera. I really like your artwork. Do you want to explain it?
Well, death is a transformation. It's not significant of actual death. I feel like this card, the death they're talking about, is almost like an ego death. And the transformation of cycles.
That's the way I always take it. It's kind of like the end of one phase and kind of moving on to the next. And it really is. I don't like using this analogy that I'm about to use, but it's the best one that I can think of. It's like beating the end boss in a level of a game, and then you go on to the next level of everything. It's really juvenile, but it's like the most fitting way that I can describe it.
All right.
Or kind of like you had mentioned for the snake last week, the snake or the snake on the pentacles card, I want to say, where it's like shedding the skin. You're shedding a layer of yourself to move forward. That's probably a more mature way for me to say it than the video game way.
Whatever works. Yeah, there's definitely a willingness to surrender and to release the past. And in order to do that, in order to surrender and to open yourself up to transform, I think it's called the Death card because there's an element of grief. There's a grief process that must be acknowledged and felt through in order for the transformation to complete itself.
I really like everything you just said there, and I've never thought of it as surrender, but that is a really fitting word for it now that you brought that up. And surrender has such a negative connotation in our culture, but it's actually a very liberating thing, especially for something like what this card represents, because it's not a fight you can win. It's like a fight that is rigged against your favor, and all you're really doing is ignoring the inevitable. And then also, what was the other thing you said? My mind just went blank after the surrender.
The grief.
Oh yeah, the grief aspect of it. Understanding that we can grieve our own lives and that grief isn't this 5-stage process that we've been like told that it is. Even the author of that says that they regret presenting it that way because it's one of the most misunderstood things. Um, this is just a quick thing. In one of Carlos Castaneda's books, Journey to Ixtlan, he talks about how a person on the path of knowledge, eventually they kind of get to this transient point. And I'm paraphrasing the actual thing from the book, but eventually they get to a point where they look back on their life and they realize that their home doesn't really exist. They can't go back to their life as it was. And that there's like this whole kind of grief of what they thought their life was because it was all an illusion and projection. Um, and there is a lot of grief in that process, and then understanding, like for me personally, maybe other people can relate to this, as I move forward in life, having that moment over and over again, because these cards in my experience aren't one-offs. They're kind of a repetitive wheel that we live through, and there's kind of smaller cycles and larger cycles of these cards in our life. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
I couldn't agree with you more. I feel as though I'm continually going through that process, especially people that are like us, that have kind of made it a huge mission of our lives to constantly reflect and look through ourselves as deeper layers, instead of like people who maybe climb the corporate ladder and transform through their outward directed activity in life. We're doing that same thing, but we're doing it internally on a, like, to meet ourselves and meet our souls, and just to figure out what, why we're here, what the bigger meaning is, and to make peace with the human condition, essentially.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot too. I mean, that's even where the name of the podcast, the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, came from, is that constant death and rebirth cycle of the individual. And then I really like how you brought up kind of, we're supplementing some of that maybe external chasing for this inward building of things. That's something that I've actually thought about a lot lately, how a lot of people have a lot of external rewards to show the progress that they've made. And really, for me, like, a lot of the progress that I made can't be showed to anybody directly, but people that have been on the journey will understand it.
Right.
But like my rims, my rims that keep spinning are in my heart, yo.
I have no words for that.
I don't either. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I feel like that was a lot of the major concepts of that card. What is the astrological symbol of death?
So death is Scorpio.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Scorpio is very dear to me. I'm a Scorpio moon.
I got a bunch of Scorpio in my chart. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. You always say that, but you never tell me what placements they are. And
I don't remember. I'll give you my information.
I'm very curious. Yeah, I have most of my first house and second house in my astrology chart are in Scorpio, and I have a lot of planets in Scorpio. So I really identify with it, and like, I don't know, I don't want to go too much into like astrology, but just that like death and rebirth is a huge theme of my life. And I think that it plays into the work that I do, because I think that the work I do is a safe container for other people to explore that part of themselves.
I like that. Yeah, maybe at some point after we're done recording this, you can kind of do a separate series on astrology, because I'd be curious. I really want to learn.
That would be so much fun. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because I really want to learn it. It's one of the things that I want to digest more. I like that.
Yeah.
Also, so Scorpio is really kind of like dark and brooding and all that stuff, or is that a misunderstanding of it?
Well, because it's associated with death, it has the reputation for being dark and brooding because it's ruled by the planet Mars and the planet Pluto. And the planet Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. And so it's in a constant state of change. In order to understand that life and death are a cycle that are inherently attached to one another, you have to have a really deep understanding of the human condition. And a lot of Scorpios are secretive and keep that to themselves because it's not super socially acceptable to be questioning mortality and cycles of things all the time.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know, it's a very deep water sign, so surface interaction does not interest a Scorpio. Also, Scorpio rules the 8th house in astrology, which is the house of death and rebirth and sexuality and the darker taboo aspects of life. And those are all Scorpio things. Scorpio is the detective that wants to delve deep into everything and into the deepest, like, depth psychology and wants to know the reasons behind everything. And the feelings, the deep feelings behind it.
I like that. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that would interact in my own chart. Somebody told me that I had a moon in Scorpio, and that, like, for me, like, trying to make money around the moon in Scorpio is a good time for me because of where my chart placement was. I don't know if that means anything to you, but
it does.
You're like, I'm just gonna put that in my pocket and silently judge you.
No, I never judge, just curious.
I'm just joking. Do you have anything else that you want to add about the astrological significance of that?
I think that was pretty broad. That'll just be a little snippet of like the next series that we do.
Something else that I want to kind of ask about now is, how does death relate to the emperor? Because I can't see any direct correlation myself right now.
And that's the interesting thing. So next year, 2020, is an emperor year, but we actually aren't going to be really equating death with that, other than I would say astrologically, having Saturn and Pluto meeting up, they're conjunct, which means that they're at the same degree. They'll meet in 2020 in the sign of Capricorn. And when they meet up, there will be a death and rebirth of structure. So Saturn governs like societal structure. So when these planets come together, it's the death of all the structure, which kind of plays into what we've been discussing on several different episodes of this podcast, where we talk about we are perceived to be struggling to rebuild ourselves because we are trying to rebuild in a way that's familiar. But all of that is leaving. So we're in Hangman and we're in Empress because we need to be open and receptive to change and the new ways of doing things. We're coming into a completely new society that nobody is going to be able to see coming. It's in process.
So I have two questions. One, I don't want to get super deep into, but this is more of me posing, and you can answer it if you have something to say about it. What does that mean? Because that's like when the next election is. Like, I don't want to get super political, but what does that mean for that election in some regard?
Obviously, nobody can say for sure, but things will never be the same. Old, like, the old paradigms are dying.
And then the next thing that I kind of want to bring up, the next question was, could it be that this one, the correlation isn't so much a partnership as an opposition, to where the emperor is in control of everything almost in their realm except for death. So that's out of their realm of control. And it's kind of, it puts them in the place of having to be more passive. And if you break the numerology down of death into two individuals, it would be the magician and the empress. And it's like, all they can do is create passivity to kind of accept it more so than anything, because it's out of their control. I don't know. That could just be me pulling at threads, but
well, no, that makes sense. I think about the emperor as taking action.
But he's kind of stuck like Chuck.
Well, I think the emperor will know how to take action once the structures have crumbled and we have no choice but to rebuild.
Okay, I like that. Okay. Now that we've had like our political discussion.
Why don't we get into the queens?
Yeah, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I just want to start by saying that the court cards are all, just a reminder that the court cards are all double elements. And the queens are not women. So there are no humans in the Moon Void Tarot in the court cards, because the energy of a queen is feminine energy, which is receptive, which is water. So the queens are all water plus their element. So if you're ever stuck in a reading and you can't remember what the queen of whatever means, just remember water of whatever.
I guess a real quick recap for everybody too about what the different suits, what their element is. Swords is air.
Yes.
Pentacles is earth. Wands is fire, and cups is water.
Yes. And the pages are earth, the knights are air, the queens are water, and the kings are fire.
So you better be taking notes on this, people. No.
Yeah. It's not a gender. There's no gender assignments. It's elemental assignment, and queens are water and they are receptive. Where the opposite would be the kings, which are fire, and so they are action. But we'll talk about them next week. Today, we start with the queens that are taking in.
Okay, which queen do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Queen of Swords.
Okay. I like how you have this one represented in your deck, because there's this whole element of balance associated with it. And you even have the scales on there to kind of represent that balance. So why don't you tell me what this means to you?
So the Queen of Swords, we have to think that it's the highest expression, because of the double elements, the highest expression of water and air. So water is our emotions and our feelings, and air is our thoughts and our communication. And because it's it's a card that represents Libra, but there's that balance of the scales. So there's balance between your thoughts and your words you speak and your feelings. So you're not overly emotional, but you're not overly analytical. You're speaking, you're definitely standing in your truth, and you're speaking up for yourself with a balance between your true feelings and your emotions and what you say.
I like that a lot. And the owl is kind of like able to see through the darkness and kind of see things as they are, higher perspective. It's always been a symbol of wisdom. What was that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're fine.
The owl is not taking things personally.
Okay. And the peacock feather is kind of showing your truth and kind of being in alignment with all of that.
Yeah.
Butterflies, like the transformation of that process.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I really like how you have that card. It's a lot easier to read the way that you present it than the Rider Smith weight. Not that I'm dissing it, their card, but like I like the way you present yours better.
Yeah, the Rider-Waite Smith always kind of bummed me out because it's it talks about how she's alone because she speaks her truth and she does it in a way that isn't warm and fuzzy, that she's by herself. Very hermity, where she's like, I'm standing in my truth, but I'm alone because everyone's afraid to come near me.
Because these 19th century men are little wussies.
She stood up for herself against the patriarchy, so they were like, okay, you can just go exit yourself from society.
Yeah, screw that. She don't need that. She ain't got time for that.
No, but I also think that too, like sometimes when you do speak from a place that isn't warm and fuzzy, or you are standing up on behalf of other people, and it can isolate you, but you're choosing the truth and you're choosing to stand up for justice, and it's not popular, but it's what's right, and you're not going to compromise and people please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that interpretation of it. You definitely got to speak your truth and kind of speak what's going on with you emotionally and kind of be present with that, because that's where everything happens, and suppressing that is where a lot of chaos comes from internally and externally.
So that's what I have to say about the Queen of Swords.
I should have said it like Forrest Gump. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know what's wrong with me. What's the next one that you want to do?
Let's do the Queen of Pentacles.
That's actually the next one I had in alignment or in a row. So you get a gold star.
Yay! Which is funny because there is a gold star on this card.
I wasn't even trying to be funny. That's awesome. So what does this mean to you?
So I love the Queen of Pentacles because it is the highest expression of water and earth.
I have a quick question for you. Why is that the highest expression and not the following card?
That is also the highest expression.
Oh, duh, it's the highest expression of that particular combination of those symbols.
Yes. It's okay.
One other thing I want to ask real quick, too, is how does the Queen of Swords relate to death specifically before we move forward to the Queen of Pentacles? I should have asked this earlier.
No, it's a wonderful question. I believe that the Queen of Swords, in order to speak her truth without taking things personal and putting herself at risk of judgment, to honor the truth and to stand up for what's right, there's a transformation or a death of ego.
Yeah, where she's saying, I'd rather speak my truth than stay in this comfort, and I'm willing to sacrifice this comfort for vocalizing how I feel.
Right.
Okay. That has more clarity. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a really good question. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome. That'll be $5 now. Back to the Queen of Pentacles. So it's the highest expression of water and earth. And what does this card mean to you?
Well, when I think about the Queen of Pentacles, I think about having everything that you want in material form, but having it be, it's not money in this case. It feels very connected to the earth. and having like the skill set of being connected emotionally to the earth. I always call this like the Earth Mama card. Like there's definitely, even though it's genderless, it's definitely like has a mothering feeling to it.
Would nurturing might be a better way, where it's not like maternal? You're like, no. One of the other things I want to ask, would this be almost like a gratitude card as well in some way?
For sure. Definitely.
And then would another word for this card kind of be like, I'm trying to think of what the word is for when you appreciate the beauty of nature. Aesthetics is you can have natural aesthetics, but there's all sorts of other aesthetics. What word do you think represents appreciation of nature?
I definitely think that gratitude is important. And I also think in this card that all of the abundance that you could have to sustain you in life comes from the earth. So I think like this would be a card that would maybe talk about like I always think of like plant medicine and using natural resources. I guess that's why I call it like Earth Mama, because I'm like, oh, everything that we need, we actually already have and can be found in nature. We don't need Western medicine. We don't need, which I know that's like, I'm not saying like we don't need it at all, because obviously there's a time and a place for things, but a lot of the things that we need, there's a natural remedy for.
It's overemphasized, the use of Western medicine.
Right. Like this is, if this card has a nurturing quality to it, it's like, how can we nurture the earth and how can the earth nurture us so that we can be in a harmonious balance?
You have called it the Earth Mama card too. Is that how it relates to death, in the sense that it's like, I brought you into this world, I will take you out? Is it being the sassy Earth Mama in that regard?
I mean, it certainly could.
Or is it more just about kind of the cycle of everything, and that's how it relates to death, kind of? Because there is, when you look at nature outside of the lens of like rose-covered new age idealism, there's a really dark underpinning to all of it, where you have to look at the darker side of the cycle of reclamation of everything beautiful that you love being reduced to like dust. And I don't mean that in like, it's a really heavy way to say it, so I'm going to laugh afterwards to maybe lighten it up. But like, is that how it relates to death, is the cycle of that process, and like honoring the beauty in that kind of reclamation?
Definitely. That's definitely a way of looking at it.
And you did a really good job on this card too, of representing the balance, and then also marking how it's related to death with the ox head or the stag head, whatever that is. What animal is that?
Who knows?
Chupacabra.
Yeah.
No, I like that though. I like the balance of it. I also like the crystal.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's like we all, like you said, we all come from the earth. So it's like this whole balance of things dying and decaying and giving way to a rebirth.
That's interesting how that whole cycle works. I mean, even us, we're made of star farts. So like, I don't know where I'm going with that. I just wanted to say star farts. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, so I can segue out of my sophomorishness?
Awkwardly hang on star farts.
Now you said it. Now you're hanging on it.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Don't do that. You're better than that, Stefanie. I don't know. I'm assuming so. Which one do you want to go to next? Wands, I assume.
Queen of Wands is one of my favorites.
So you want to save that one?
No, we can talk about her, because Queen of Cups is my other favorite.
Okay.
I love all the queens. I guess the Queen of Swords bums me out, because I don't ever want, like, there's that loneliness to it, and I don't ever want to be alone.
Yeah, I can see that.
Also, I'm really, I don't want to say I'm passive aggressive, but I'm non-confrontational. So the Queen of Swords is always a tough card for me because I'm just like, oh man, I have to like speak up and tell somebody how I really feel, and I don't want to do it.
And for the listener at home, when she said I'm passive aggressive but non-confrontational, you can't see the look that she gave, but it was like, I will cut a bitch if I have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it, with like Midwestern charm.
I didn't want to cut you, but you made me cut you. Look what you made me do. Sorry.
Let's talk about my girlfriend, the Queen of Wands.
Thank you.
So the highest expression of water and fire, which fire and water typically produce steam, but in the case of the Queen of Wands, she makes magic. Also, this is a card about owning your sexuality. And definitely that is like your kind of, we talked about sacral chakra, your inner fire being your creativity and having like a really mature and high level understanding of the creation power of feminine energy.
I'm still laughing at star farts. And then here you say a high understanding. I'm just like, that's not me. No, I think that is really super important to honor that whole process. And one of the things that I really got from what you said about this, when you mentioned the magic aspect of it, she creates magic with that fire and water. It makes me really, or you create steam with fire and water, but it creates magic. It really makes me think about how emotions and then the creative drive do create something that is magical. Like that is the byproduct of it. So it's interesting how you chose to represent it in Moon Void Tarot, with the fire on the water, but then thinking of that aspect of steam, which I hadn't thought about, that like that is the magical process. And from what I understand from things that I've read and my own personal experience, emotion with that creative drive behind it literally is the magical process. That literally is the sauce for like creating what you want.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just like, yes, I'm like with you. Continue.
That's all I have. Star farts. No.
And a word count now.
I don't know how this like degraded into cosmic sophomore humor or juvenile humor. What else do you want to add about this card?
Well, because of its connotations and historical implications of being the card of the witch, which in the Rider-Waite-Smith, she's got her black cat. And the black cat is the symbol of magic and witchcraft. But it had to be so subtle as so people wouldn't, the talking about witches was something that was very taboo and could really be, could really hurt you, literally. So that's kind of why I put a bonfire with wands coming out of the bonfire with flowers blooming out of them, because you may have been able to burn my ancestors, but the Queen of Wands, like, you can try to burn her as much as you want or burn this energy, but you can't kill it. It becomes something else. It transforms and it alchemizes and something blooms from it.
This next question isn't directly related to the card. It's going to be more so pointed at kind of modern witchcraft now and the commercialism of it in some regard. Do you feel that's a good thing or a bad thing or kind of a mixed bag?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I actually have been working on like a big post about that. So identifying as a witch has become really trendy over the past few years. And I think it's because identifying as a witch is so inclusive. And people are really looking for something, some kind of significator of their identity. And maybe people get into it because for a superficial reason, such as maybe you like to wear all black, or maybe you think crystals and incense are cool, or you like the look. Like it's like an aesthetic thing before you kind of like fall down the rabbit hole of what a spiritual awakening entails. But we can't say that anybody is doing it for the wrong reasons if that's what brought, like, kind of sucked them into like the vortex of magical practice. But I think that it's liking it because it's historically known as being taboo, and it's resistance. And it's the anecdote to patriarchy. It's the being a witch is matriarchy.
My next question is this: do you think that the common understanding of what it is a misunderstanding of what it's actually about? Like, what's the popularized opinion of it is actually misunderstood?
I'm not bothered by it.
Okay, so the end results make it okay.
Yeah,
I'm genuinely curious. Like, I don't really have a specific agenda for my questioning.
No, that's okay. It's such a huge thing now. And I think that like some people are like I've been doing this and I come from like a really deep spiritual place, and like it's really irritating to me that like that person over there is wearing black nail polish and pointy hats and wearing black lipstick and buying clothes from Hot Topic, and it's like they're just the look to them. But if that's their brand of resistance and they're looking at it as a reclamation of not conforming to societal norms of what their outer appearance should be, then that's just their entry point, and that's where they're at.
So there's like witchsters, like witch hipsters.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I think that it's very inclusive. It's for everybody. And there's no one definition of what it actually means. It's completely user-friendly. So whatever being a witch to you is perfectly right. And whatever being a witch to me is exactly right. And whoever's listening to this, whatever being a witch is for them is perfectly right. And nobody's more or less. Like, it's even playing field.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. I like your response. It's a lot more tactful than what I would have said. So, moving on. Unless there's anything else do you want to add to the Queen of Wands?
I don't think so.
And now the Queen of Cups.
Water of water.
That's like overly emotional right now.
So emotional. I love that it's representative of Cancer. And I liked the idea and the concept on the Rider-Waite-Smith of having that cup representing your intuition, with it being covered, as, you know, a Cancer isn't necessarily always ready to come out of their shell. They have to protect themselves because they're so emotional. and they care so deeply, and so they can be easily hurt.
One aspect of that too, and I'm curious of your thoughts on this. You had said that the cover is kind of covering it up, and if it's water, emotions can block your intuition, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like if you haven't processed your emotions clearly, like that can really dissuade your intuition. Could that also be represented by having it covered up?
I guess I never thought about your emotions blocking your intuition.
Well, if you're like all energetically out of whack, like if you've stuffed down your emotions and haven't processed it, like for me personally, I've found that a lot of my gifts were kind of haywire because I had stuffed a lot of things down. I mean, also I was on a bunch of drugs and I had a lot of issues I hadn't resolved. But part of that was from stuffing emotions down and not processing them. And I think that a lot of that is relative to as you kind of do chakra healing and you focus on those specific manifestations in your life, you open that energy up. But you kind of have to go through all of that stuff to get to the third eye, which is like the seat of your intuition in your body. Does that make sense?
It does. It's interesting that like your third eye is like that intuition, but then Cancer, their intuition isn't in their third eye. It's in their gut.
There's actually like a lot of neurotransmitters in your gut too, where like a lot of your emotions and stuff are actually situated, which is like I think why they have that saying, gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, Cancer is about their intuition comes from their gut feelings.
I still wonder though, like if you have to have a good sense of self to where if you're, I guess how do I want to say this? If you don't have an understanding of your own emotions in a real way, like say that you're empathetic, but you haven't tempered it properly or understood your gift, you can't clearly pick up what you're feeling. And you might intuit that you're picking up somebody else's emotions when it's really your own or things like that. Does that make sense?
It does. It definitely does. I wouldn't say that your emotions block your intuition though necessarily. I think that it's a bunch of other factors that if we're looking at your emotions as water, I think your water's polluted. And that's not your emotions. It's all the other garbage that's blocking the filtration system.
That's a very good way to put it. I see what you did there. You Caponi'd me. No, you're right. It is things that have impacted your emotions, which are making your emotions polluted, like you had said. I like that. So what else comes up for you in Queen of Cups now that I took us on that tangent?
Oh, so it's like, it's that balance of outpouring of emotion with a need to like a healthy need to balance and protect yourself. Because if you're very self-sacrificing, you can open yourself up to not only being manipulated, but also manipulating other people emotionally.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say to that. Like that card, I relate a lot to either side of that. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that?
I guess like my last little bit, I know I had said that the queens didn't have a gender, but I feel like there's an element of fertility, just like in the Empress, because there's this like heavy receptivity to them. I feel like there's a heavy element of fertility in all of these cards. Maybe less the Queen of Swords, but definitely Queen of Cups, Queen of Wands, and Queen of Pentacles.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is it kind of goes back to what we had talked about when it comes to the energy as well. It's not so much about gender as it is like in Hermeticism, it's the principle of gender, but it's not about specific uh, physical gender. It's about energetic gender and kind of how that's represented across the I can't even speak universe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it does have that like generative quality or fertile quality. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, like with the Queen of Pentacles, it's it's like a fertile ground for planting. You know, whether that's planting the seeds of anything that you're looking to make manifest in the natural world, but definitely like for children. Like I've done a lot of readings where this has come up and somebody's pregnant.
Oh wow.
Same with Empress.
Queen of Wands is just like fertile for ideas or fertile for like the creative process. What's that?
Fertile for action. Like the Queen of Wands is more the sexual acts than what comes through it, but just tapping into your own sexual energy is Queen of Wands.
That's why it's like a fire, because it's like Tinder, where it's all about hookups. I'm just joking.
Yeah, but we're talking about sacred sexuality. We're not talking about hookup culture.
Oh.
Sorry, friend.
And then Queen of Cups is just like fertile for like sharing your emotions with the right people, or
yeah.
Okay, I can dig it. I really don't have anything else. Do you want to do the rundown?
Sure. So
Tell us what it is.
So the Death card, back to death, ruled by ruler of Scorpio and transformation.
Oh, I gotta hold the phone. We didn't really talk about how death relates to the wands or the cups specifically, I don't think. Or did we?
Well, I think we did with the Queen of Wands when we talked about the fire and like burning things down, but instead of steam coming from fire and water, it's making magic. That's the transformation.
Touche. You got me there. And then for the cups?
I don't know why the word drowning just comes up. I think it's like not letting your emotions overwhelm you and others, and like that learning to protect yourself. So there's a transformation of kind of what you were speaking about earlier with not letting the waters get polluted.
Okay. It's about like transforming before you drown, basically.
Yeah.
Or like running one of those like pool vacuums to get all the shit out of your pool water.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pool shark.
Now I'm gonna have that song by Sublime in my head. Are you familiar with that song? Anyhow, it's a good song.
Not cool.
Yeah, this conversation's over. No, so death is all about transformation, rebirth, end of a cycle, beginning of a new cycle. And it kind of carries that new perception element of Hangman. It's just like the more active aspect of the new perception or new perspective, I guess. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And the bullet point, do you have anything you want to add to death?
Just honoring the grieving period during the transformation.
Okay. Sorry.
Just saying that it's like an ego death.
Yeah, that's one of the cards that I misunderstood originally. I think a lot of people do. You're gonna die. Not so much.
Not physically, metaphysically.
Hi-oh. Bullet points of Queen of Swords.
Queen of Swords is the highest expression of air and water. So not taking things personally while standing in your truth. Speaking up for people that maybe don't have a voice, even if it's not popular.
Queen of Pentacles is Earth Mama brought you in this world. Earth Mama is going to take you out. No, what is Queen of Pentacles?
The highest expression of water and earth. That cyclical life, death, rebirth cycle. What did you say about that? Just being in tune with nature and knowing that all abundance comes from the earth.
Yeah, reclamation is a word I kept saying way too much. But yeah, I don't know. That's the word that comes up for me a lot on it.
I like that. Queen of Wands she's attuned to her magic. She's the highest expression of fire and water. And they don't make steam, and in this case, they make magic and things grow from it. It's a card of sexuality and embracing the raw, passionate aspects of yourself.
And then Queen of Cups.
Queen of Cups is the highest expression of water and water. So deeply felt emotions, helping to bring the collective to that emotional experience and that nurturing quality, being really tapped into your intuition, but your gut intuition, and then knowing how to protect yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for that. Next week, we are going to be talking about temperance, if I'm not mistaken.
I love temperance. It's one of my favorite cards.
It's a very pretty word and a very beautiful spiritual principle.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that. I just want to say thank you to everybody listening. If you would like to reach out to Stephanie or I, if you have questions, comments, or just want to say whatever you want to say, within reason, obviously, reach out to us on Instagram, or shoot me an email. Get a hold of Stefanie at moonvoidtarot.com. All of that information will be in the show notes, so it's readily available to you. Stefanie, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody listening. We really love doing this. So thank you for being here with us, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and star farts. Thank you for listening. If you love this show, one kind review goes a long way. If you have a question or comment you'd like read on air, please send your email to staff@spiritualphoenixstudios.com or use the link in the show notes.